Who is going to break out this year for the Cleveland Browns, right? Like, we have been waiting for these players to have their breakthrough, the landmark season as a Cleveland Brown, but has not happened yet. Some of these guys we've been waiting for very little time. Some of these guys we've been waiting for a little while to see if they can do this. So I'm going to go. I got a list of 3 players on each side of the ball, 3 defensive players, 3 offensive players, and we're going to go from here. The first player, I think, is ready for a breakout, and if you've been watching these camp videos, seems like he's on the verge of a breakout. John Johnson III. He had a rough start to 2021. Looked like he was out of position the most of the time, looked like he wasn't comfortable with what he was being asked to do. Then the latter half of the year came back. They gave Grant Delpit more free safety responsibilities, and that really unlocked John Johnson to be a much better version of himself than what he was the first few weeks he was here in Cleveland. Now, he takes that. Also, he's going to go and have a year of just learning the defense better, being more comfortable in this new defense. And it looks like at this point, he's back to being John Johnson, who before he signed his deal with the Cleveland Browns was one of the top 5 safeties in football, arguably by a lot of people. PFF, I think, had him at 3. So he is somebody who looks like he's returning to that top tier form that he was in LA. If he can be that, right? I mean, you talk about the defensive impact players on this team, right? You already have Denzel Ward. You already have Greg Newsome. You already have Myles Garrett. You already have Jadeveon Clowney. JOK is somebody we're going to talk about very soon here. But those are 4 guys that honestly most teams don't even have one of. And then if John Johnson can return to form and be one of those guys, team's going to be great. At least the secondary is going to be excellent. And it looks like John Johnson is ready to break out. I think he just needed to get comfortable in this defense. He just needed to find his appropriate fit in this defense to be everything that he can be. And I think this year we're going to see why the Browns were comfortable giving John Johnson so much money last year, because I think he's really going to play up to that level that we kind of expected last year that he kind of hit at the tail end of 2021, but now he will hit coming into this season. So John Johnson, he's going to be one of my breakout guys. JOK is going to be the other breakout guy. There's no surprise here. Really good last year, but he was kind of limited by the role he was asked to play in. Browns were very vocal about not giving JOK too much in year 1, just teaching him how to play like will linebacker and keeping him there. Towards the end of the year, they put him a little bit at middle linebacker sometimes, but they were really intent on keeping him at will. Now we're going to see what we saw last year from JOK. This is a better way to phrase it. What we saw last year from JOK is he was able to be a really, really good will linebacker. But you didn't draft JOK just to be a really good will linebacker. You drafted JOK because he's versatile, right? Last year, they just wanted him to learn the one position, and they were going to work on that. This year, he's going to spread out more often, right? So now we're not just going to see JOK be an excellent will linebacker, which he was last year. We're going to see him move around a little bit more, maybe contribute more. And the more he's able to be versatile, the more he's able to be around the football, the more plays JOK is going to make, the more of a breakout he's going to have. I don't know if he gets better than what he was last year, because he was really good last year. But I think he's going to be more impactful than he was last year, because he's going to be around the football more often than he was last year, because they're going to let him do more things and give him more responsibility there. And if you get Myles Garrett going, you get Denzel Ward going, you get Greg Newsome going, and JOK is playing at a good level, and John Johnson's also playing at a top level with Jadeveon Clowney, you see why the hopes are high for this defense, because this is one of the most complete defensive rosters in football, period, point blank. I stand 10 toes down on that observation. The next breakout is, I think, a defensive tackle is going to break out. Now, last year, we were worried about defensive tackle. It ended up being all right, right? And here's why I think a defensive tackle is bound to break out in the incubator that is the Cleveland Browns defensive line. And It's purely because they have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. Now, some of you guys are like, well, how is that going to make the interior better? It makes the interior's job much easier, right? Marcus Spears is somebody who consistently has good takes on defensive linemen, and he always goes to this line, right? Defensive line is a lot like pickup basketball, or a lot like basketball. It's a starting five. You don't need 5 stars necessarily to have a good starting five, but you need a couple of stars that can make everybody else's role easier. That's what Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney can do. Because with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, one, they're versatile, right? You can move Jadeveon closer to inside. You can definitely move Myles Garrett inside. And then all of a sudden, you're using your depth at edge, which is decent, instead of your depth at defensive tackle, right? So let's say the Browns have 3 good defensive tackles or 3 NFL quality defensive tackles on the roster. Now you can work with that by moving around Jadeveon Clowney, by moving around Myles Garrett, and letting guys like Alex Wright get more tick, and letting guys like Jermaine Johnson get more ticks. Jermaine Jackson, Joe Jackson, my bad. Jermaine Johnson was like a first round pick, but Joe Jackson get more reps, right? Or you can have them on the edges and support them tremendously, because Myles is going to get double teamed, sometimes triple team. And Jadeveon, if given the opportunity, they will try to double team him as well, which is going to leave the interior very thin, which makes your job easier, right? It makes the one-on-one opportunities for a guy who is shown to be a monster at that in the Senior Bowl in Perion Winfrey. He gives them those one-on-one opportunities for him to shine. Jordan Elliott, maybe he steps up, maybe in his, 3rd year? We've been waiting for this for 3 years. Maybe he finally has developed the strength and the skill to be a good defensive tackle. Same thing with Tommy Togiai. But nonetheless, because you have Myles Garrett and because you have Jadeveon Clowney, the interior's job is going to be a lot easier, which means you're going to see more one-on-ones, and it doesn't take as much, right? You don't need the greatest defensive tackle in the world to win a one-on-one opportunity. You really don't. You need some decent defensive tackles to do that, and that's what the Browns are banking on. So I think we're going to have a breakout defensive tackle guy, much like Malik McDowell was last year, this year. I don't know who that guy is. I'm probably betting on Perion Winfrey, but, it could be any one of those guys, whoever gets the opportunity and wins the battle in camp. All right, let's go to the offensive side of the football, and we're going to talk about my first breakout guy. I've talked about this before, but it's Kareem Hunt. I think Kareem Hunt is probably going to be one of the guys that benefits the most from Deshaun Watson / Jacoby Brissett, because one of the things with Baker Mayfield was that Baker Mayfield did not look at his check down often enough, which left some yards on the board, especially for Kareem Hunt. With Jacoby Brissett looks at his check down almost too much, but he looks at his check down pretty consistently. Deshaun Watson's really good at finding his check down when he needs to find his check down. So no matter who the quarterback is, I think his production as a receiver goes up. If Deshaun Watson is in there for the bulk of the season, which is still a possibility, then you're talking about Kareem Hunt running out of that gun up the middle in 5-6 man boxes, which he has been a monster against, right? His yards per carry has been tremendous in those situations. Also, Kareem Hunt is just going to be out there more, because when you go spread, right, and with Watson's out there, you're going to go spread more often. Hunt's the guy you want in the backfield more so than Chubb, because Hunt's just a better receiver, and you don't want to waste Chubb reps on Chubb blocking, right? You want Hunt out there because Hunt's just as good as a blocker as Chubb is. So if you're going to fatigue a guy, it would be Kareem Hunt. So that's why I think he's going to get more opportunity this year, and I think he's going to get found more as a receiver, as a check down option this year. And the threat, right, if Watson's out there, the threat of Watson running, the threat of Watson throwing will make those slip screens be wide open this year. So I think Kareem Hunt's in for a big year no matter who's the quarterback. Another guy I think is going to finally break out and get some people off his back that I don't think he has really earned, but a lot of people are on Jedrick Wills' back. I think Jedrick Wills is going to have a really good year. Whether he gets credit for it or not, I have no clue. But Jedrick Wills, I think he's going to have a type of year that people are going to finally get off his back. He's been one of those players where people have kind of, I don't know, been a little bit unfair to. I think people think he's been playing worse than he has because he has not played that bad. He had a couple of bad games last year. He had a couple of bad games his rookie year. But again, offensive linemen usually take 3 years to hit what they're going to be for the rest of their career. Wyatt Teller was terrible his second year. Third year, he became one of the best guards in football. Jedrick Wills has been pretty good his first 2 years. I think he's going to hit another level this year once he's healthy, once he has that weight program, and I think he's going to make strides as a run blocker, and I think he's a really good pass blocker already. So I think he's going to be somebody who finally gets the critics off his backs, I guess. Hopefully has a healthy year, holds up well, and plays really well for the Cleveland Browns. Jonah Williams is another guy you can throw in there, right? Jonah Williams had injury issues his first couple of years as a Bengal, but now he's pretty much stabilized there and been a really good left tackle for him, especially last year. So the third year for offensive linemen is no joke. It's been a thing for quite a while. I wouldn't expect it to not be a thing going forward. The last guy I have here is going to break out now. I debated putting either David Njoku here or the guy I'm about to name, but I'm going to put Harrison Bryant here. Now, David Njoku, I expect him to have a good year, but I don't know if he's going to have a breakout because for a guy who has the upside of David Njoku, we're talking about a breakout year being like 1,000 yards. I don't know if that's in the cards for him, right? But Harrison Bryant, on the other hand, I think he's going to have what people would consider a breakout year because I think he's probably going to have about 500-600 yards. And I would say 5 to 6 touchdowns this year. I would say 5 to 6 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a really nice stat line. I think he's been kind of the biggest victim of Austin Hooper being on the roster than anybody because Austin Hooper being there has put him out of position, one, and two, has drastically lowered the amount of targets that he got last year just because of the volume of targets that Austin Hooper ate up when he was on the team last year. So more opportunity for Harrison Bryant. Also, he gets put back in his proper position. He's never been a fit for that third tight end. He's never had the size to be the third tight end, and the third tight end is typically somebody who's a dedicated blocking tight end. Harrison Bryant's fit in the NFL has always been as a tight end too. I think he's going to more naturally slide into that position, and I think he's going to have a really big year this year. I don't know if he has like a crazy year. I know the George Kittle comps were on him coming out of college, which I always thought was a little bit ridiculous, but I think he's going to be a really solid second tight end option here for the Cleveland Browns, and I think he's going to finally show that. Had flashes of it his rookie year in camp, had flashes of it during his rookie year. This last year, he really didn't have anything because he didn't get any targets, but now in a better position to succeed, in an opportunity where he's going to have an opportunity to get the ball with quarterbacks who are more adept to finding tight ends, similarly to how I feel like both of the quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett and Watson, will look at their checkdowns more. They also favor their tight ends more often, right? So in a situation like that, I feel like Harrison Bryant is going to step up and have a nice year. Not saying that David Njoku is not going to have a nice year as well, but I think Harrison Bryant's going to surprise more people than people are expecting. But those are my Browns breakout guys on both sides of the ball. Let me know who you have down in the comment section below. But again, guys, have a great day. Have a good night.